know that sounds completely crazy, but every high-performing athlete does it. Every salesperson does it. I mean, at high level.
I don't believe in being fearless. I think if you're fearless, it means that you are just doing the things that are inside your comfort zone.
When you're on a path of purpose, you ain't got time for drama.
Rise and shine!
It's espresso time!
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I am not a morning person, but when you start your day off with a powerful routine that inspires you, like watching one of these videos, it will change your life. So let's start your day off right together. Grab your cup of coffee, know that I believe in you, and get ready for a shot of espresso from Brendon Burchard.
I wake up every morning.
Espresso keep me going.
I wake up every morning.
Research study in psychology found out that both second person and third person makes you makes your self-talk more powerful. So if you're gonna do affirmations, you wouldn't just say, I wanna do this, I wanna do this. You wanna do what we call in the book self-coaching, where you would say, in my case, Brendon, it's important you do a good job here today because you usually don't do interviews. And you really love Marie and you wanna do a good job for her and her people. And this is a book you worked on for 3 years and it's important it does well. And Brendon, don't forget, you're so lucky you get to do this, brother. So just enjoy the process. You're so lucky, Brendon. That's a different level of going, I'm lucky, right? It is.
I'm Brendon, I'm
yes,
great.
Yes, another one I do every morning in the shower. Assuming I take a shower, but every morning in the shower.
Because we all don't every day.
Not every morning.
No, we do not.
It just doesn't happen.
It does not
happen. I told you, like 24 hours ago, I was staying in a barn in the woods at a friend's house.
Yes.
But the second thing I ask myself in the shower every morning is, what might happen today that could trip me up? And how are you going to bring your best self to that, Brendon? I say that every morning in the shower to myself, and it just helps me anticipate that, something's gonna go wrong during the day.
Absolutely.
And if I already know everything, like this morning's was, okay, you're in, I'm North Manhattan, where I'm staying. Would you call it North?
You're uptown.
I'm uptown.
And you're coming to, let's just call it downtown.
Okay,
Yes.
so I'm like, okay, that's gonna be 45 minutes. It's a hot summer day.
Yes.
I'm gonna get hot, and I know when I'm hot, sometimes I get impatient.
Yes.
And I get stressed, and I don't wanna feel that. So just pay attention to how you're feeling on your way down to the interview with Marie, Brendon, and really just engage, pay attention, be present with New York, and really enjoy that you're here. I know that sounds completely crazy, but every high-performing athlete does it. Every salesperson does it. I mean, at high level. Every person I interviewed who are at what we call the top 15% of all high performers, they all self-talk, and most of them we found were doing it in second and third person, which was amazing.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's so fun.
Yeah, little things, yeah.
I enjoy
So if you already talk to yourself and you say your name to yourself, they're not crazy, you're probably high performing.
Most of us never take control of our self-talk. You don't take control of the thoughts that you have about yourself when you're by yourself. It doesn't even matter as much what our parents think, what our friends think, what our husband or wife thinks. It's you. You're the problem. You think negatively about yourself. You are not consistently filling yourself with thoughts, with positivity, with ambition, with courage. The default pattern is one of mediocrity, of one of, I can't do this, one of lack of resourcefulness. And so that's what you live. And it's possible to change. And in making that shift and making that change, you become an entirely different person. We talk about how do you become the best version of yourself? How do you live your life? How do you show up as that proud version? This is it. It's taking control of the automatic self-talk that you have to yourself, even if you don't actually talk to yourself, even if you're not saying, Evan, you're an idiot, right? Evan, you can't do that. Even if you're not saying those things out loud, you're feeling those things. It's at a subconscious level. And this is where you're playing small and limiting yourself. So let me share an example from my background, and then also give you some tactical, specific, tangible things you can do to start to break free, to start to actually live the life that you say that you want to live. I am afraid a lot. I'm afraid a lot, and I used to let that fear dominate me. I used to let that fear prevent me from doing the thing that I needed to do, whether it's making videos, whether it's speaking on stage, whether it's interviewing people. I don't believe in being fearless. I think if you're fearless, it means that you are just doing the things that are inside your comfort zone. You're photocopying your life. I think if you're fearless, you actually hate your life because you're just doing things that you know how to do. I think fear is a great thing. It's not being fearless, it's having the fear and then showing up because of. Not even despite of, because of. Because you're afraid, then you have to go do the thing. Because you're worried, then you have to go do the thing. Because you're afraid of somebody's judgment, then you have to go do it. Just to teach yourself that you do it. So for me, speaking on stage, doing interviews, making videos were the three that I struggled with the most. This is a guy who's made 10,000 videos, has spoken in front of thousands of people, have done interviews with some of the biggest people on the planet. I'm still afraid every time. And I don't let that fear now stop me from doing the thing. I'm still, I had Tony Robbins on my channel, and I had him on 3 years or 2 years before, but I'm still nervous to have him on. My heart's still beating like crazy. I'm still an emotional wreck the day of. I'm still not focused on anything else. I can't do any other work. I can't make any other videos because I'm stressed about the interview going well. I still worry about these things. It doesn't go away. There's just levels to this. And I still want to show up. Where old Evan, younger Evan used to find a reason why I couldn't do it. Find a reason why I couldn't show up. Live in the fear and justify it as an actual reason or excuse, but deep down, I was just afraid. Think about your reasons. Like, why can't you do this thing? What are you telling yourself that you can't do? Really deep down, it's just a fear. You're just afraid. There's no really good reason. You've convinced yourself there's a reason, but deep down, you're just afraid, right? If you're actually honest with yourself, you're just afraid. So how do you get out of it? How do you start to shift the narrative? How do you start to identify the self-talk that's been automatic and in your brain consistently for years or maybe decades? How do you start to make that shift happen? Number one is to spend a little time with yourself and finish the sentence. I am what? I am blank. I am blank. What's the blank? You are what? If you're just by yourself, you have a little space to breathe from your environment, you are what? What are some of the words that come up? What are some of the positive words? And what are some of the negative words that show up? If you're being honest with yourself. There'll be hopefully some positive ones. So for me, it could be I'm someone who believes. I am a great husband. So I'm paying attention. I am, a great father. I am a great, not owner. What do you do with dogs? I don't know. A great.
They're still considered your kids.
They're my kids?
Yeah, dog kids, pet kids.
All right. I am a bit down on the negative side. Like I am afraid of disappointing people. I am scared of speaking on stages. I'm worried that I'm going to ask bad interview questions. Like, what are the positive and negatives if you fill in the I am? Okay, just to get awareness of yourself. This starts to uncover some of the subconscious behavior that you're living on autopilot, right? The subconscious is the autopilot. It's what you're doing by default. The conscious is what we want to take control of to then turn into subconscious, to then make the automatic, the positive, the ambitious, the bold, the courageous, right? So start with I am. What that does is lead you to step 2, which allows you to identify your trigger words. So what are the trigger words that you use consistently as an excuse for you not to do the thing? So my 3 trigger words are scary, difficult, or hard. That when I say scary, difficult, hard, those used to be the reasons why I couldn't do something. Those used to be the reasons why I would let myself off the hook. Those used to be the things I would tell myself, oh, I can't do this because it's scary. I can't do this because it's difficult. I won't show up because it's hard. And I would let myself off the hook for those things. That I would say, oh, that's okay because it's scary, so I'm not going to do it. And that used to be my identity. And identifying the trigger words, what then allows you to do is move to step number 3, where you use them to take the action that you want to take instead. That when you're thinking it, because those are the automatic patterns that are in your head, your subconscious, great. When I see those things, when I feel those things, when I text those things, when I write those things, if I have a conversation, those things come out of my mouth, come out of my brain. If I'm thinking about it to myself, then I have to do it just because. Scary, difficult, or hard. And what that does, and those are mine, and you can adopt them as your own, but I'd rather you go through the I am process to figure out what they are for you. What it does is help you live the life that you're proud of. that when you say, oh, that's just too hard, you're not allowed to say that anymore. You're not allowed to say that, feel that, think that. As soon as you say it, then you have to immediately go do the thing. Even if it doesn't work out, even if you look like a fool, even if XYZ happens, you're gonna do it. It's worth it because you're reprogramming your identity. As a bonus step, you tell the people around you. So Nina stepped out, but Nina, my son, my team, my family, I'll let them know, hey, if I say scary, difficult, or hard, I want you to let me know. If I say to you in any conversation, I can't because it's scary, or it's difficult, or it's hard, I need you to call me out on it. Because I still don't catch all of them. It's a lot more than it used to be. And I'm probably, 90, 95% of the way there, but there'll still be some small percentage. And having people hold you accountable is really important. Now, the default thinking for them is going to be, what are you talking about? You're always doing all of these things. You're always showing up. You're always doing scary, difficult, hard in my case. Yeah, but not like I could be. There's another level to this. And everything I want out of life, my mission, my vision, my boldness is on the other side. My great life is on the other side of even more scary, difficult, and hard. I have to start living it. And so I need help in catching it. So you use yourself as step one, as the first part, but then if you can, as a bonus, bring in the accountability to the other people in your life who can help you catch it. And you're not allowed to get angry at them. You're not allowed to get frustrated at them. If you say one of your trigger words and they say, you just said it, you're going to want to say, nah, but it doesn't count. It doesn't mean it. I was thinking something. Stop letting yourself off the hook. Instead, you say, you're right. I need to go do the thing. And the more you can train that, trigger word came up, I'm doing the thing. Trigger word came up, I'm doing the thing. Trigger word came up, I'm doing the thing. It's scary, I'm doing it. It's difficult, I'm doing it. It's hard, I'm doing it. Just because you start shifting your identity. You start changing your self-talk. Now you start to become the person that you're proud of. You start to become the person that you say you want to be. You start to actually become the person. You've become the best version of you. That's how you tangibly change your self-talk. Tangibly change the thoughts that are running your system, that are keeping you small, keeping you scared, keeping you way below your potential. And when everybody else in the world is letting you off the hook, saying what a great job you're doing, you know that you're capable of more. You know that when you sit down by yourself or when you look in the mirror, there's not all love there, right? You love yourself. Do you see love when you look back in the mirror? When you do the I am exercise, is it only positive? We have to start getting honest with ourselves. This is the process to change it. And if you did that every day, you're not going to catch it all the time. Don't worry about being perfect. This isn't a game about being perfect. It's about making progress. It's about taking the step every day, building momentum. If you did that, if you could just find your trigger words, and then every day that you catch it, do something about it, even if it's some small thing, your entire life will change. The way you show up in your life, in your relationships, in your business, towards your customers, towards your team, all of it changes. All of it changes. Suddenly, you're not impaired anymore. Suddenly, you're a lot more courageous. Where did it come from? Where did this extra courage come from? How am I not handicapped anymore by the things that used to slow me down? This will be you. And I want you to get there faster. And this is the process to do it. So you can start living the life that you know you're capable of. Change your self-talk. Change your life. Good luck. Now I've got a special bonus clip that I think you're going to enjoy. But before that, it's time for the question of the day. I want to know, what was your single biggest takeaway from this video and your plan of action for the next week? When you just get motivated, when you watch a video like this, you just get motivated, the science says you have a 35% chance of actually following through. That's not good enough, Believe Nation. We are a bunch of action takers. It has to happen. So here's how you do it. When you actually create a plan, when you write down what time, what place, where you're actually going to take action, your number jumps from 35% to 91% chance of following through. And when you commit to other people, like leaving a comment down below, your number jumps to 95% chance of following through. I want that for you. So Believe Nation, your single biggest takeaway from this video and your plan of action for the next week, I'm gonna take one of your comments and feature it in a future video so I can celebrate you. Let me know in the comments below.
Listen, humans are built to serve. Some people are built to serve the world, others want to serve the 25 people closest to them. But in either case, humans are built to serve. So if you're not happy right now, it's because you're not serving enough. You got to pick up this book because it's so inspiring to remind you that we're all here to contribute, to make a difference, to make an impact, and this is your field guide for I believe in you, kid. I remember when I was going to start my business and I really wanted to be good at it. You know, I was trying to become an author and a speaker and do these types of videos and do some online training for people on the topics of motivation and marketing. And you know, all these people were saying, well, Brendon, you may or may not be successful at that, you're, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, it's a weird thing. It's not like there's a trait of successful people. You look across history and successful people, it's not, they're not from a given background. They don't come from a specific economic stature. They're not in a position where, they're one demographic or another demographic. I mean, it's all over. I mean, we've got thousands of collective years of history. People succeed, some people do, some people don't. And I think it more comes down to how do we manage our mind and how do we manage our days? And I think that there's a difference between successful people and unsuccessful people in the way they particularly think about approaching something new. I think unsuccessful people, when they have a big dream and they start thinking about what's going to be required to accomplish that dream, they get very limiting in their beliefs about themselves and what's possible. And specifically, they say three types of things. The first thing they often say is, well, I don't know how to do that. So they stop. They say, I don't have those things, so they stop. Or they say, I don't know, I'm not like those people, I'm not like that, and so they stop. But successful people have a different way. They have the same thing. Everybody dreams. You dream, I dream, successful people dream, people just starting out. Everybody dreams. Everyone has a vision. Everyone, if they can just take 5 minutes today and think about their lives, we could all come up with ways to improve our lives and reach another level of success, joy, happiness, achievement, contribution, fulfillment, soul. We can all elevate. But the challenge is that the unsuccessful people, they keep stopping when they think of what they currently know, have, or are. But successful people say, well, I want to do that, but I don't know how to do that. But instead of stopping, they say, well, then my job is to go learn that. They take their current limitation and they put it on their agenda as a job to do, as a thing to figure out, a thing to make happen. Instead of saying, well, I don't have that, they say, well, then my job is to go build that. Or I'm not like that. Then they say, well, then my job is to go become more of that, become that person who could accomplish those things. When I was starting to do online marketing for the first time, and I don't know how much of my story you know, but when I started doing online marketing, I was literally bankrupt. And I went from a place of bankruptcy to the point where I really committed to becoming successful at it. And in 18 months, I'd made $4.8 million, 4.6 collected. I mean, it was just a huge leap, right, in difference from bankrupt to multi-millionaire in the span of 18 months. But what made that breakthrough wasn't that I had new opportunities. It wasn't that I had new technologies. It wasn't like, wow, there's the internet now. Those things were already there. I went from this level of thinking to this level of thinking. I used to say, well, I don't know how to build a web page. So I said, agenda, figure out how to build a web page. And I spent hours and hours and hours at nights, on weekends from my job, figuring out how to do that. And I said, well, I don't have one of those lists. I don't have any subscribers. Nobody knows who I am. So I said, job, go build a list. Go get subscribers. Go add value and content out at the marketplace and they'll come. I mean, just keep putting stuff out there. And I also didn't say, oh my gosh, well, I have that dream. I can't have that because I'm not like that. Because I wasn't a public speaker. I didn't know how to do video. I wasn't like, well, I'm not one of those video people. Well, I'm not a public speaker.
So I said, you know what? I have to go learn that art. I have to go become a better speaker, a better communicator. I have to go become more confident. I have to go become a person capable of doing these things. I have to change myself to get there. I can't wait for circumstances to change so I can have my dream. Then our dreams would never happen. We have to get to the point of maturity in our lives where we say, okay, 2 things are going to change my life. Something new is going to come into my life and make me lucky and blessed. And maybe I can't count on that forever. And maybe now instead I have to consciously design my life and say, okay, now if I want to change, if I want my dream, something new has to come from me. I'm going to become a better person. I'm going to become a person who is more optimistic, who is more confident, who is more driven. Not because I am that now, but because we can grow. That you can become the type of person who you need to be to achieve your ideal life. You can start today living from your highest ideals, your highest sense of self, your strongest sense of self. You don't need permission. You don't need a guy like me to look at the video camera and say, you have now permission. But if you've been waiting for it, you have permission. It's like at some point in your life, you just say, okay, I have permission to become my best self. And by becoming your best self, you start to achieve your best things. You start to contribute better things. You start to become a better human being. You can do that now, today. So next time you're thinking about a big dream, don't think about the things that, well, I don't know how to do that, and stop. Think, I don't know how. So set it up on your calendar to go learn those things. I don't have that, then set it up step by step to go build that. I'm not like that, then set it up step by step to go develop those skill sets and those competencies so you can become that, and ultimately you can achieve that dream. It's there, it's waiting for you. Don't stop.
Now, I know you all have big goals, big dreams, big aspirations, just like I do. You've got ambitions to become an amazing person, to build your career, to create, to contribute, to give, to be an awesome human being. But all of that is impossible without great habits set up. If you don't have routine and structure set up in a way that will keep you on track, then you'll fall off. And having new goals without new habits is kind of like, having a new car without wheels. The habits are the wheels. They're the things that make you able to achieve the goals. So you gotta have good habits. But the challenge for most people isn't that knowledge. I mean, you need to have good habits. It's you can't keep the habit going, right? Have you ever started at the new year, you're gonna get healthier, and you start that habit of working out on a more regular basis, and then it goes away? Or you say, I'm gonna be more kind and more patient and more awesome to my partner, my lover, and you start being nice for 2 or 3 days, and then on the 4th day, you're a jerk, and you're like, what happened? I said I was gonna be nicer. It's that you didn't set up the most important thing you needed to maintain a habit. So what's the biggest secret I've learned in almost 20 years in this field? It's so simple, but most people don't have it. It's called trigger moments. You have to set up trigger moments to activate your habits. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say you want to become a better person. You want to become more kind, more patient, more loving with people. Now, you can just set that intention or write that down in your vision, or in your journal, or set up on a vision board that you look at once in a while. But in day-to-day life, it's not enough. You need things to trigger you, to remind you to be that particular kind of person, right? It's almost like if you could have a little angel speaking in your ear all day long to tell you what to do and how to be, you'd obviously become better. Well, that makes sense. Well, let's use that idea. Let's use that idea by setting up alarms on our phones that trigger us to do the very things we need to do. This is gonna be so basic, you're gonna laugh, and then I'll also tell you how I've literally taught this to Fortune 50 CEOs, and they said it was the one thing that changed their life the most dramatically. So let's start with this. Let's have a goal in mind. Let's say you want to become more present and calm throughout the day. Again, you could write that down on a journal. I'm gonna be more present and calm. You could meditate in the morning saying, today, I'm gonna be more present and calm. And you could start out with good intentions, but those fall apart without a trigger moment set up throughout the day to remind you that. So what if you did this? What if you just set up on your phone 3 alarms during the day with a label that said, close your eyes, take 10 deep breaths in, remind yourself to be calm. So let's say you're going through your day, it's crazy, right? It's 10 a.m. and all of a sudden, bing, your phone goes off, you look down and it says, close your eyes, take 10 deep breaths. And then again, it happens at
2 o'clock. And again, it happens at 6 p.m. And again, it happens at 8 p.m. What's gonna happen? You always look at your phone, don't you? It's gonna go throughout the day. You're gonna forget. And the funniest thing is, I've had so many people do this worldwide. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of people I've taught to do this. Hundreds of thousands. And they tell me all the time, that changed everything. And you'll think, once you set it up, that the next day, you'll forget about it. No, that alarm will go off. You forgot you set the dang alarm. There it goes off in your face, and you're like, all right, I'm trying to be calmer and more present. Close my eyes, take 10 deep breaths, reground myself, here we go. You can't do it once a day. You have to have moments throughout the day that trigger you to enact the new behavior. I know this makes sense to you, but it's a challenge for a lot of people because they never set those things up. So what if you did it with an alarm? So for example, for me on the opposite spectrum, I don't want to just be calmer and more present. I want more energy throughout the day. So here's what I do. One of my big trigger moments is every time my butt hits a chair, I don't care if I'm on a plane or I was like where we're shooting here, I wrote a lot of my books here. I wrote the Motivation Manifesto here. I wrote The Charge here. And if I'm going to write, my butt hits the chair, I grab my phone, I open the timer, and I set 50 minutes. Now at 50 minutes, the timer goes, bzzz, it starts buzzing, and I look at that and I go, oh, that's my trigger to get energy. So I stand up, I go get some water, I take a glass of water, drink it down, I do some stretches, and I do some exercise just really briefly, or I'll go for a walk, whatever it is, but I'll do something that usually takes just 2 to 5 minutes. Then I'll sit back down, I'll set that 50-minute alarm, and I'll work. And what that does is every 50 minutes, it triggers me to change how I'm physically moving. It changes my attention so that throughout the day, I'm continually refreshed. So I never have that 2, 3, 4 o'clock time where I'm like, you know? Why? Because I've triggered my day so that my energy is maintained throughout the day. Makes sense, right? This could be as simple as, let's say you want to be healthier in your life. Okay, let's set up some trigger moments for you in this way. Let's say every time you drop off the kids, on the way back to the house, you stop at the grocery store and get some fresh produce. That's just a trigger. It's like, okay, did one thing, drop kids off. Now, tied to that, triggered from that action, drop kids off, is go to health food store. Or let's say you want to get healthier in the morning. One of the easiest ways to help people maintain a better exercise program is this. Set a trigger, you wake up in the morning, your first action is to drink water, put your exercise shoes on, might get dressed if you were naked, just saying. So you get dressed, put your shoes on, you go downstairs or you go to the gym, and that's the trigger. You woke up, you do these actions. Nothing interrupts those actions, that's the action. And you have to have those set up. One of my other favorite trigger moments to set up is door frame triggers. What do you mean by that? When you walk into a new room, to have a psychological trigger go off in your mind that you've associated with that door frame. So let me give you an example. If I walk into my house at night, if I've been working all day and I'm gonna walk in, I'm gonna see my lady, I have it so when I ever walk through the doors of my house, 3 words repeat off immediately in my mind because I've done it so many times consciously. I went to the door, I said the 3 words, said the 3 words, said the 3 words, and I did this so many times that now when I walk through a door, my mind automatically triggers those 3 words, and I remember to be those 3 words. So what words would you love to have describe you as a person? That you would be happy if that was how people described you? What would those words be? Have those and now set them up in your life. I teach executives to do this as well. I have them have a door frame trigger when they walk into their office in the morning. As soon as they walk through that door frame, they have, boom, 3 words go through their mind about how they want to be perceived as a leader. I have them set up another door frame. Every time they walk into a meeting, into the conference room, when they walk through the doors of the conference room, they have another 3 words that trigger off for them. And it just reminds them how to be. So these aren't big, crazy things. A lot of people think they have to completely change their life. What would change your life completely is setting up more trigger moments and associations that when you see something, you do this. That when this action is taken, then that happens. That when you have the opportunity to set up alarms on your phone, you set them up so that you're interrupted in your everyday life to remind yourself to stick to the habits, to stick to the intention.
You do that enough on a continual basis, you'll find yourself in so many ways completely rejuvenated, and I promise you'll stick to your habits even more. And once you do that, you know that everything changes. You have to be all in, and it's the hardest thing to do because if it fails, then you can feel like a failure. I think of this idea of performance necessity. Two stories kind of come to mind. One is I was working with an Olympic gold medalist sprinter, and we're in the tunnel, and we're going out, and he's talking about the competition, and we get out to the blocks, and I said, he was really worried about the competition. I said, well, how do you even gauge, like, who's gonna win? In his particular race, people are winning, but by 1/100th of a second, tenths of seconds. I mean, these are really close sprints. And I said, well, how do you know? I said, who would you even bet on? And he says, I would bet on the guy who gets down at the blocks, gets himself settled, looks at the finish line, then says, I gotta do this for my mom. And I was like, ooh, that's good. His performance necessity in that is, it's necessary for him to win that race for his mom. I think of, when I started my career and I really decided to go all in with writing and online training. This is like 2006. I'd gone broke, completely bankrupt, and failed. I left my corporate job. I had this cushy kind of corporate job as a consultant. Good job. Left it to write. And I didn't know how to make it as a writer. I wanted to do seminars and workshops, didn't know how to do that. So I was pretty much a hot mess, ran out of money. I got nothing to my name, nothing, no positive prospects. No one's calling me except the guys who want the money. And one night I'm writing, and the apartment was so small, on the bed I had all, my bills, my vision boards, all my research, all my journals. Like, the bed was basically the desk, the extended desk. And my lady comes in, Denise, and she walks past me, but she sees I'm like trying to write. So she doesn't want to disturb me. She crawls under the covers of the bed, and I'm just typing, casually typing away. And I look over, and I see my woman sleeping under my bills. Wow. And it was just like, because none of us want to see our family suffer because we are not performing.
Sure.
And I was just like, I gotta figure this out. And I'm telling you, I wrote more that night than any night in my entire life. Next day I wrote more than ever. That birthed Life's Golden Ticket, which became a bestseller. And in 18 months later, because I was like, I'm gonna figure out this online thing, I'm gonna figure out marketing, I'm gonna figure out how to teach, I'm gonna figure out how to train and get paid for it, because I'd never really been paid for those things. I said, I'm gonna figure out this industry, and I'm gonna make it. 18 months later, after her crawling under the bills, I made $4.6 million
Jesus.
online. Total transformation. People are like, how did you do it? I'm like, she was my necessity. I was not going to let my woman be in that situation. And she believed in me, she supported me, she married me. And, but she was my drive. And the second part was, I went all in with my identity. I said, I am going to be a great writer, and I am going to be one of the greatest online trainers there ever was. As you said in the intro now, we've graduated over 2 million people have taken our online courses and video series now. I don't think it would have happened if I hadn't had the guts and maybe no other choice to say, this is who I'm going to be, and I'm going to build into that. And it is necessary for me to become that person, so let's go. The first way you should not compare yourself to others is in terms of, especially today, their fans, their fame, their followership, right? Their audience. Never do that.
in my industry, that's very, very popular to do, and it's ruined a lot of people's lives who don't ever rise up to serve because they think they're not popular enough. You know, it's like you write your first book and you don't have as many sales as other people, and you think, oh, well, I don't have the audience. Or you go to someone's fan page and you see, oh my gosh, look at their followership. Look at how many Instagram followers they have, how many Twitter followers they have. And because you see them so big, you think, oh, I could never be that, so you don't even begin. And a lot of people do that. They say, well, I'm not that big, so they never start. But as I always say, you know what, no matter how small you start something that matters. Begin it. If I began my career looking at my heroes, looking at a Wayne Dyer or a Tony Robbins or a Marianne Williamson, a Deepak Chopra, a Jim Rohn back in the day, or looking at people like Og Mandino's who'd sold millions of books, or even the famous books that you saw, millions and millions and millions of copies, if I gauged myself to that and thought that was the expectation, I would never begin. So you can't expect to start out with tons of people. Some people say to me all the time, well, Brendon, it's so easy for you because you got millions of people on your email list and you have millions of people on Facebook and tens of millions on YouTube. I say, it doesn't make it any harder for me. I still show up and shoot this video. And the reason I have the followers and the fans and the audience is because I showed up and I started when there was only 1 dude, 10 dudes, 100 dudes, 1,000 dudes watching us. My first seminar that I ever did, we only had 22 people in the room. And now we fill up seminars 9 times a year, often from people from 46 countries around the world, fly in, paying thousands of dollars a ticket. And what did I do? I started with 22 people in a room, and most of those people didn't even pay. And every time the guy walked in with water, I counted him as one of those 22. You know, like I had no followership. It's never about how big you start. It's that you start, and you get big by staying at it. Because what people do is they put out the first video, they write the first book, they try the first thing online, and nobody follows, nobody watches, and they quit. They get disappointed. And where there's disappointment, there was too high of an expectation on achievement versus learning, versus process, versus beginning. What you want to do is never be disappointed. And the way that you're never disappointed is that you understand every single step counts, every single step is learning, every single step gets you going. But if you have the aspiration or the attention that's only focused on their followership and meeting that, you'll never begin. Don't compare your followership to anybody else's. Instead, just compare your work ethic. Be there, show up, work, get it done. The second thing I don't want you to compare yourself to is other people's achievements. That means their wealth, their sales number, their big house, their big car, their whatever else, you know, their fancy clothes, their whatever they got. Don't look at other people's achievements and what they have. Because if you do that, it's also, you think, well, I'm not famous enough, and then you think, well, I'm not lucky enough, blessed enough, rich enough, whatever your excuse becomes. You gotta be very, very, very careful of that. And I know you know that, but lately, have you been looking at other people's stuff and feeling demoralized because of that? Well, they had a silver spoon in their mouth, or they're so lucky. Those types of things stop us from even trying because we feel like the game is unfair. Well, it's not. Most wealthy people, especially all the billionaires I've met, and I've been blessed to meet lots of them and coach a few of them, the mega stars that I get to work with, the Olympians I get to work with, the highest achieving people in the world, it's not luck, and most of them didn't have unbelievable lucky family connections. What they did is they hustled, they worked, they built it, and even if they started a little more abundant than other people, they outlasted their peers who also started out abundant because they gave, they worked, they struggled through, and we gotta keep going. The third thing, don't compare yourself ever in terms of looks, appearances, beauty. You know, I know if you're somebody who opens up those fashion magazines or those celebrity gossip magazines, you're always looking, oh, she's cuter than me, oh, he's better looking. And then again, you have the excuse. Soon as you compare yourself to other people, you have the excuse to never begin. You have the reason to be demoralized. I mean, if I looked across YouTube when I started doing my episodes or my videos or iTunes or podcasts, you know, I would have never begun because you got all these people out there, they're amazing. They look so good, they sound so good, and I sucked. I couldn't talk like this before. Now, as you know, all of our videos and every episode I've ever done has been unscripted. No notes, I got nothing. I'm looking right at you, there's nothing in front of me, I just go. And they're all in one single take. Majority of them, I think 99%, are one take. And that came from practice, where for years and years and years, I tried to be able to just speak extemporaneously without using notes, without using a script. I taught myself to do this. And if I'd compared myself to other people who were so polished and looking good and every word was precise, I would have never gotten to where we're at today with literally hundreds of millions of views and from our posts to our videos. It came because I didn't worry about the polish of looking like everybody else. I was just doing my thing. So what should you compare? Why should you be comparing yourself to others? For growth reasons, learning reasons. I mean, the first reason you should always compare yourself to others is for creativity. To get ideas, not to steal and not to compare, but rather to go, oh, how would I do that? In comparing yourself to others, it brings in self-awareness to say, oh, look, this is how I'm distinct. This is how I'm different. This is how I could approach this in a different way. If I didn't research the market, I would never know how I could be different. If I didn't know how I could be different, I could never have a business. You cannot build a business or have a real career or make any major contribution without understanding how you're distinct. Steve Jobs knew that when he built the phone, it was different. And that, thinking differently, is what made him an icon. It's the same for everything that we do. Compare so you know what is out there, so you know how you could bring a new creative edge to it. Second reason to compare is to compare for vision. Because as you get self-awareness and you understand how you're distinct, sometimes you see someone doing something amazing and you're like, wow, I got a bigger vision for myself. When I started seeing people posting videos, back in 2007, I got a bigger vision for myself. I mean, 2007, I saw people posting longer videos online. I thought, wow, I never saw myself doing video, but look at how I'm watching these and I'm relating with these. I got to do some video. And by comparing myself to others, so other people I followed or researched or read their books, and I saw they had a podcast, I'm like, I'm gonna get a podcast. It opened up my vision for the vehicles, the mediums, the ways that I could serve and give, and I want you to do the same. And the last piece, the reason to compare yourself, is for growth. There is an amazing amount of talent in this world. And when you see them, it should inspire you to level up. It inspired me to learn how to do video. It inspired me to learn how to speak extemporaneous. It inspired me to get over my fears of public speaking and step on a stage, and now it's in front of thousands and thousands of people to inspire the world. I never thought I could do that, but seeing other people sometimes achieve the remarkable, you get inspired. If you can look at someone who's done something better than you, and it inspires you, that means you have humility, and you got a chance. If you look at other people who've achieved more, have more, look more, feel good, or are more amazing than you, and you get bitter or upset, that means you're small, and you're destined to smallness. But if you can look at greatness and be inspired, you're on track. You're gonna live an extraordinary quality of life, the kind of life that we call the charged life.
In our lives, especially when we're being reactive, information comes in, right? We're at an event, we're paying attention to how people treat us, we're studying something, we're trying to learn something, and we're just going about our regular day. Information is coming in. How people perceive us, the cause and effect of events, things are just happening. Information comes into the brain. From that point, the information immediately goes into interpretation. And what this usually means is interpretation in the fast reactive thing is safe, unsafe, good, bad, like it, don't like it, recognize it, don't recognize it. Been there, done that, unfamiliar, familiar, certain, uncertain, fear, safe. All these things start triggering. It's pretty unconscious and it's pretty fast. Our biases come into play. It's just that speed, spontaneous, reactive part of us. And that's not always bad. Sometimes it can be good, right? Sometimes it can be good. Interpretation can be that event, that's good for me. Or that event, that's bad for me. But usually it's like a snap judgment. Think about that. Most when we're talking about an unconscious level, it's like a snap judgment, automatic. Like you like her or don't like her. Feel safe, don't feel safe. It's very fast. Then the next level, and this is not always linear, of course, because your brain is not left brain, right brain kind of methodology, your brain's more of a spider web of interconnectedness that is something we still don't understand, okay? You can study everything in neuroscience and you might learn something about this lobe or that cortex region, but then only to find out that later on, a year later, like, well, actually, it seems like it's also communicating over here. It's a spider web of unbelievable intelligence that's happening. And everything can be hundreds of milliseconds of transitions between neural networks. It's unbelievably fast, unbelievably capable. So this is just for our understanding. It's not necessarily real world linear like this, but what tends to happen is as information comes in, good, bad, we also then move it to a level of, well, what does this mean to me? Identity. What does this mean to me? What does this either mean to me or what does this say about me? How does this apply to me? And if we're not conscious here, this can be really troublesome. Some of you discovered that yesterday, I bet, when you released a few things. Sometimes we have these events in our life that we take on and we just assume it meant something about us. And we didn't realize, no, that's more of a statement about them than it is about us, right? Sometimes when you're hurt or someone was rude to you, it had nothing to do with you. Raise your hand if you follow. It had nothing to do with you. But if you're not careful, you could say, mean person, unsafe, means I'm bad child. Rude behavior, uncertain about this, I must not belong. Terrible situation, I feel bad, I can never be safe again. How many follow how this happens? This is why we have to be very, very, very observational of our own thoughts and feelings, because how these things get labeled can really change our lives forever.
Well, imagine like last night, I'm going on the stage, right? If my identity says I am a public speaker and it is important for me to be excellent at this, and then I go on stage and I bomb, what does that say about me as a person? So we've got about 50 years of work in psychology, the field of psychology, saying do not tie your efforts to your identity, because that risk of disappointment or rejection, if the task fails, you shouldn't take that as a defining moment in which you say, I am a failure, right? So that's the risk, and that's what psychologists tell us to be wary of. Except, it turns out that high performers flip that on its face and go, well, actually, no, I do get bothered if it fails. I really get upset about it. I am attached to the process here. I do care if it turns out well. I mean, that's why they obsess about the details. That's why they care about excellence. It's like, no one obsesses about the details or cares about excellence unless it means something to them. And there is a risk. The risk is you over-attach to the process or the outcome with your identity, so that if the process or outcome goes bad, now you feel bad about yourself as a human, and now you stop your progress. But I also tell people, there's a balance there. I actually wish more people would attach some identity to what they're doing. They wouldn't go through the motions as much. I mean, I think what the world needs less of is half-interested parents who don't have an identity that says, you know what? I'm gonna be an excellent parent. I think we have a lot of CEOs or business people or entrepreneurs who they've never stepped in and said, you know what? I'm a CEO. I own this business. I am responsible for paying the bills. I am responsible for making the money. I'm responsible for all these people's mortgages who work for me. I want them to own the identity of a CEO, because most of them, if you ask them about their identity and their business, they're kind of like, you come to find, they're kind of approaching it like not even hobbyists. It's like, if you want to win, your identity has to be tied into that thing in which you are trying to succeed at and give to. And that takes a lot of guts to put yourself all in for something, but who's ever contributed something with tremendous impact without being all into it? I've never seen it. So I think the message of the book, you're right, I'll get some flack and a lot of psychologists say, don't tell people to tie more of their identity. Or my friends who are Buddhists will say, but attachment is the form of all suffering. Brendon, have you not read your spiritual texts? I'm like, look out, calm down. I've hung out with the Dalai Lama. I'm totally cool. But what I'm trying to tell you is even the Dalai Lama has a connection with himself as a spiritual leader. His identity is still there. That people, assume that, we have to release ourselves from having any attachment to something. But I'm like, I think we all want to be present and engaged fully in the things that we are doing in our lives. And that's going to require us to say psychologically, you know what? I am all in this. That's what I'm about.
It's the habit is generate energy.
Okay.
Not necessarily have energy.
Create energy.
Create energy. And what they do, the way we measure that was kind of academic. Mental energy, which is tied to your focus and your stamina and your ability to manage complex tasks without too much mental stress. Number 2 is emotional energy, which is just the quality of your positive emotions. And number 3 is physical energy. High performers are 40% more likely to work out 5 times per week than the rest of their peers. So that means the top 15% most high-performing people in the world tend to work out 5 days per week. And that workout could be defined as, 45-minute brisk walk or, HIIT intensity or whatever it is, but 40% more likely. That's a huge finding. And what we found is high performers just have better well-being and happiness and physical conditioning than everybody else. One stunning finding was CEOs, senior executives, and business owners, they report expending as much energy as athletes who are competitive now.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. I was surprised by that. I would have thought, athletes would be 10% more.
I mean, the emotional and mental energy
Yeah.
they have to, the decision making, the conversations, the big deals, the stakeness.
Yeah.
It's a lot of energy.
It's a lot. And that's why, if you really want to achieve your dreams, you have to care for your body.
Yeah.
Your mind. That's why all these things, finally resonating in the marketplace because of the science of meditation or taking a break or, managing your own energy. Sleep is everything.
Yeah.
And I think all of that is really important. And we say generate energy because there's this myth that, some people have happiness or they have, it's like, no, you generate it. You don't have happiness. You generate it.
Create it, yeah.
You create it. And so the quality of your energy you have to create. Like you and I both, if most of our audience knew our schedules, your schedule the last 5 days, it's like, how is Lewis even able to focus right now?
And how are you able to get here and do this as well?
Yeah, but it's because we say, well, this is our mission. Show up, man.
Yeah,
there's plenty of times I got to imagine you walked on the field and you were like, I'm spent.
Exhausted.
I remember when you flew down to compete in South America.
I still play with the USA team handball team. And a year ago, I flew down to, I remember I did an interview in Miami and then flew out from Miami and then went right into training camp and then played against Brazil, which is Olympic qualifiers and got our asses whooped, but it was fun, But I had to have clarity and energy and show up, even when I was like, oh, we're going to lose.
Yeah.
There's zero chance.
Yeah.
It was like the worst team in the NBA playing the Warriors, and we were just like, we had no chance.
Yeah.
But I had to show up and give my best. And
you have to set all these routines. The amount of routines that Tom Brady has in his life so that he can generate energy.
It's unbelievable.
Stuns most people.
It's unbelievable.
And that's
what it takes if you want to be at that level. If you don't want to be at that level, you don't have to do it.
Yeah, you don't have to do it. Everybody can just I'm going to go, hit the Cinnabon, but it's like,
it's pretty good.
How do you want to feel at 3:00?
Yes.
If you want to feel amazing at 3:00, don't end lunch with a Cinnabon.
One of the major keys we found, the first high-performing habit is seek clarity. And what we found is one of the practices that high performers do is they define the feeling they're after. And so when we had to explain that and later talk about it in the energy chapter, we had to differentiate between feelings and emotions, and they are different. Emotions tend to be, they're the same.
Yeah.
They're physical, they're almost always automatic, even though in the brain is creating associations, there's also happen. For us, they just kind of,
emotion comes up.
yeah, you're watching a movie and you're just sad, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm crying. You didn't even have the tissues ready, you're just like, blah, but the feelings are usually interpretations that we make of what that emotion was and how it sticks and the meaning we give it to it.
Yeah.
And the example I used to, I like to give, and I don't remember if it's in the book or not, honestly, because here's what's happened. This book is 400 pages. It was 1,481 when I finished.
Baby, you edited down.
Yes, and it was 1,481 good, complete.
Yes.
It was like awesome.
Yes.
But I was like, that's going to freak people out. So we're publishing a bunch in academic journals later, and then stripped it down to 400 pages, so it's more readable and fun and orientable. So I can't remember if this one actually made it in there, but the example I like to give is if you and I go to a haunted house.
Yeah. Which I love.
I love them, and they scare me the crap. But if you and I walk around, you walk around one of the walls in a haunted house, someone jumps out at you.
Yeah.
You and I are both going to jump.
Yes.
We are emotionally going to experience fright immediately. It's going to be there, right? But I might be freaked out for the next 5 minutes, and you might be laughing. Why? It's the meaning and the feeling that we've defined it as. That's fine for everybody. Here's the issue that people have, and you have to be careful about when we start talking about energy, because emotional energy is real.
Yes.
And that is, look, if at 6, like we go to the haunted house at 5 p.m. in the afternoon. If at 9 p.m. now you're in your house, you're alone, but you're completely safe, and you still feel scared, that's not the haunted house's problem. That is the way that you are defining and working through your own emotions. You had the emotion of terror and fear, and you're still experiencing that feeling. That's a mental job, not an emotional job. So your job is to go, wow, I'm at my house. I've lived here for 10 years. I've never been threatened in this house. This is a safe place. I got to redefine the feeling I want to experience. And I work with an Olympic sprinter, gold medalist, Olympic sprinter, as a client. And this person's huge breakthrough in getting better, in going from literally won Olympics before, not medaling at all, to now gold. I said, what was the thing?
Yeah.
And one of the things they said to me was, I learned to define the feeling. And I said, what do you mean by that? And he basically said, if there's a bunch of us at the starting blocks and we're all in perfect poise and perfect condition, the one to bet on is the one that says, this is the way I want to feel in this race right now. I know my emotions are going crazy. Like my heart's beating. I can hear everybody. I'm waiting for that shot blast. I can see my goal. I know how important this is. And all these, their emotions are there.
Yeah.
But that person's defining the feeling going, I'm going to feel centered now. I'm going to get myself in the zone now. Even though the emotion of anxiety is there for all Olympic level competitors, all of them. But they define that emotion as a feeling that helps give them a performance edge. And I think that's important too. Bruce Springsteen says if he's ever backstage and doesn't feel like nerves, he's gonna hang it up.
Yeah.
But that's anxiety, he's just defining it differently.
It's so simple. Like when you get that life is really short and you felt that before, either by you were threatened or you've had someone near and dear die, but when you have that real essence in you that says life is short, have reverence for it, live it, that's a really big thing. I got that at 19, and I learned specifically that if we have a moment of cognition before the end of our life, we tend to ask questions to evaluate if we're happy. So if I have any impact in the world, it's gonna come from that experience where I learned that the ultimate lesson is determine what the questions you're going to ask at the end of your life are going to be. Find out those questions. What will you ask at the end of your life to evaluate your life so that you would know if you were happy with your life? Like, figure out those questions and then live each day intentionally so you're happy with the answers at the end. For me, the questions I had were, did I live? Which I hadn't. I hadn't been living my life. I'd been thinking about taking my life. Right. Did I love? No, my heart was broken. And I put up all these walls to keep out other people. And I always say, sometimes the walls we put up to keep out the bad guys prevent the good guys from getting in. And suddenly in our own self-protection, we block out the very thing we want, which is connection. And I learned that I would ask, did I matter? 22 years ago, on a dark Caribbean night, I'm standing on the crumpled hood of a car, bleeding out. My friend and I just wrecked a car. He's screaming at the top of his lungs. He's bleeding. We don't know if we're going to live. And I'm standing on the hood of this car, looking down at all this blood, and I'm in terror. And I just remember looking down at the hood and just thinking, did I even matter? And I hated the answer at that time in life because I was a 19-year-old kid. I didn't know about impact theory. For real. I didn't know to think about that. Young kids sometimes, they don't know to think about that. I didn't know to think about legacy, meaning. Did I matter? I didn't think I did. But the good news is, I'm a good learner. And I felt like I got a second chance from God that night, and I learned that it was really important for me to figure out how do I live, and how do I love, and how do I matter in such a way that if I face my death again, I'll know I've earned the second chance. And so what I want to tell people, and the impact I want, is I just want people to know your questions, man. Live intentionally and earn the life that you've been given, because this moment's a blessing. So earn this moment and live intentionally.
Dude, if you're angry all the time, you gotta change how you look at the world. Yes, there's a lot in the news that can piss you off. Yes, there's a lot going on that causes outrage all day long on Twitter or social media somewhere. But if that's your sole focus, no wonder you're upset all the time. Lots of people are angry right now because of the news or something chaotic or terrible or something they don't agree with is happening in the world. But that's not new. There's always chaos, there's always turmoil, there's always bad things happen in the world. But if that's your focus, no wonder you're having that anxiety and that frustration and that anger all the time. You gotta change both your focus and how you're reacting to things when you do see it. So first, let's work on your focus. As much as you're angry all the time, are you also noticing the beauty of this world? I mean, the odds that you're even alive and having your breath is something to connect to every single morning. To have reverence for your life in the morning, to wake up. One of my late mentors was Wayne Dyer, an amazing, amazing teacher. And he always talked about how he woke up, he rolled over, he put his feet on the ground and he said, thank you, thank you, thank you. He was grateful for his day, and he began that way. And I think so many people right now, they kind of roll up in bed and they grab their friggin' phone and they start going through the news and social media. And what are they queuing? Immediately, I'm queuing stress, chaos, turmoil, clickables. It's like clickbait, 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 clickbait. No wonder you're frustrated. You're activating your brain immediately right off the beginning of the day in all the turmoil of the world. Put the dang phone down, get up and think about what you're grateful for, about what you want to achieve and give and serve and create that day, about who needs you to be on your A game that day so you can focus on that instead of like this in bed. That will change how you start your day. And then listen, a lot of people who are angry all the time, they're also in outrage all the time because they're focusing on the problem all the time. And they're bemoaning the problem. They're calling out the problem, complaining about the problem, judging, criticizing, getting upset all the time. A ton of people who stay in anger all the time are failing to be solution-based. That's what they're doing, right? They're just anger, anger, problem, 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 outrage, outrage, outrage. But listen, when you become a solution-based person, when you say, okay, I actually want to do something about this problem, and you start taking positive steps to at least address it or to participate, suddenly that anger goes into a new fire, and that fire is called enthusiasm. It is easy to switch anger into enthusiasm when you become solution-based as a mindset. When you say, okay, I don't like this, let me do something. Let me call somebody. Let me take this action. Let me write that letter. Let me send that email. Let me get my friends together. Let's go protest. Let's go get involved. Let's participate, because participation turns anger often into enthusiasm. And so if you're just stewing on the things you don't like, of course it's going to be a negative energy. But if you start stewing on the things that you can do, you find personal power. You find enthusiasm, you find social contribution, ultimately you find community. Because one reason it's so easy to be angry is when you're alone. You're at home, you're sort of thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking about all the negative things, and you don't have an outlet of other human beings to discuss with, especially solution-oriented people or people with ideas and dreams and ambitions, people who are doing stuff with their life. Because listen, when you're on a path of purpose, you ain't got time for drama. I don't have time for a ton of anger in my life because I'm too busy making positive changes. That's where we want to get you. We want to shift your attention and focus in the morning. We want to start making you more solution-based and get you a community of people around who are ambitious and driven to change and to make positive change happen. When we do that, the anger starts going away. And if you can't get over the anger yourself, then don't be shy about asking for help. You know, a lot of people, they don't have anybody to talk to. So I'm like, get a therapist, man.
Get in a group, man. Talk with some people, go to a seminar, get in a new sort of environment. You want to get rid of the anger? Go volunteer. Get around other people who are making positive impacts. That community, that shift changes your life. You don't have to be angry anymore. And the last part about that is letting go. You got to let go of those things that upset you 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. If you're an adult and you're still angry and pissed about things that happened to you in high school, you need a therapist. And I say that with all sincerity and all respect. If you're having mental thoughts that are coming from a place that are literally based 5, 10, 20 years ago that you just didn't deal with yet, you need help dealing with it. And you need to get yourself a meditation practice or a therapist or into some kind of way that you're on a consistent basis letting things go. Here's what I do. Every Sunday I go, okay, what was I pissed about this last week? What really bothered me? Okay, I gotta let that go. Because you can't keep charging into the next week angry from last week. You gotta let it go. You gotta find a clean slate for yourself so that your soul can expand and can be positive and can be ambitious and motivated and serving the next week. Because listen, anger after anger after anger, hatred after hatred after hatred, criticism after criticism after criticism, rejection after rejection after rejection, outrage after outrage after outrage, it weighs you down. So you've gotta change how much of that you're taking in. And you've got to make sure every single week you're doing some kind of like mental detox to let that stuff go. And instead of cultivating the anger, cultivate the gratitude, cultivate the enthusiasm, and you can change your life.
If you want another amazing Brendon Burchard video, check it out right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
Most people don't have a calendar.
Achievers schedule their success.
What is batching? To explain it in simplest terms, we can talk about laundry.